Hello, this is Brent. I'm a coach, an intuitive, a healer. This video is called Be the Master of Your Mind. And we're going to talk about everything that I've learned about how to be the master of your mind and what that means and why it's essential and why it's important and how to do it. So that's what we're in for. Would you please hit the like button? Would you please subscribe? And you may also consider joining my newsletter on my website. You'll see the link below where you can access Seeding New Realities. It is a long talk that I gave with a group member about how to come out of hypnosis of your problems, like how we become hypnotized by our lives and by our obstacles, so much so that we actually at a certain point stop even attempting to create the results beyond them. And so in that talk, we talk about how to get out of that hypnosis and actually get onto the good stuff. And it'll be a beautiful, beautiful complement to what we're going to do here if this talk hits its mark. Because we will be talking about hypnosis, we will be talking about obsession, and we'll be talking about what the mind actually is, like how to interface with the mind, how to actually view it. So, and one more thing just before I jump in is that I made a video that I will also link in the description below that is a treatment on hypnosis, and it is essential viewing. And I don't say that lightly because I know, it's easy to say go watch my stuff, but really, really, I highly, highly recommend that you go check out my video where I talk about hypnosis, because if you don't know what it is, or if you have a vague idea of what it is, it's very, very likely that you actually don't know what it is. And this video will give you the correct and most up-to-date idea of how to view it and how to know if you're being hypnotized and what to do about it. So it's very important as well, and it plays right into what we're doing here. So we're going to be weaving these concepts and a few more concepts together. So be the master of your mind. If you are the master of your mind, which is to say, if you are in a positive, harmonious relationship with it, and you have a good position of leadership over it, and we're going to get into what that means, then it means by definition that you are no longer against yourself. You are not in a state of conflict with yourself. And it is essential in order to achieve a deep attained state of unconditional love. If you can find unconditional love in yourself, if you can resolve all conflict in yourself and be on good terms with your own mind, then you can create with your mind as opposed to against it. You can create with congruence, with harmony, and you don't have to encounter your life as if it were a series of unending obstacles, but instead you can just see it as creating and moving with it, with life, flowing with yourself, with your own energy, with your own inspiration, with your own intuition, and with the movements of life. In other words, to flow with the Tao. So the first thing that we need to address in order to get into this is to realize that the mind is like a classroom and you're the teacher. Or we could view it as you are the boss and the mind is your employees. It's everybody that you've hired. Or you could also view it, a third metaphor would be you are the captain of a ship and the crew or even the ocean is your mind. And the reason why this distinction is so important is because we realize through the use of these metaphors that your mind is not something that you can control. It is something that you lead. So just imagine once again that you are a teacher and you are responsible for a class full of toddlers. If you've ever been in a position like this before, which I have, I was teaching English overseas once. If you attempt to control the classroom, then it is a guarantee you are going to fail. The class will rebel against you because no person in their right mind would ever succumb to being controlled. Nobody wants to be controlled. And we all have different reactions to being controlled. For example, we may rebel right away, or maybe we'll go along with it in order to earn the teacher's favor, or we may go along with it until we'll pretend to go along with it until we find a way to escape or revolt or mutiny or whatever it is. But the basic guarantee is that you may be able to get a short-term win if you attempt to control yourself, but it will never be a long-term win. And this applies whenever we attempt some sort of forceful self-control tactic on ourselves. If we ever put ourselves through some sort of military style control, say if we're trying to set habits or something, we'll always be able to get a quick short-term win, but then it won't work in the end because there's no respect that's being attained between the aspect of you that is giving the shots and the aspect of you that is executing the plan. Between the word and the action, there's no connection there. So it's not that the mind can't be controlled, but then again, I guess it kind of is. The mind can't be controlled. And it's not suggested that you attempt to control your mind. Instead, the focus here is leadership. And when I use the word mastery, that's what I mean. Mastery, not as a form of domination, as a form of subversion or control. Mastery as charisma. Mastery as leadership. Mastery as having both a vision for the direction that we're going in and also the means to communicate and motivate that vision to the crew, to your staff, to the class, so that your mind is willing to cooperate with you, so that it's willing to get on the same page as you, and so that it can rest assured that it's not being controlled or being led in a direction that it doesn't want to go. Like another reason why there's so much self-sabotage, and I experienced this so much as a young man in my 20s, because I would create these plans where I'd say, okay, every day for the rest of my life, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and do 1,000,000 push-ups and eat a celery smoothie and then read 5 books and do language training and then martial arts. And then I'm going to run 2 businesses, and then I'm going to have more celery for dinner. And then I'm going to go to sleep, without thanking myself or appreciating myself. I'm just going to go right to sleep and wake up and do the same. We do that 7 days a week forever. Or until I, attain some sort of success in the future that is undefined. And when we create a plan like this, and the element of self-appreciation, the element of giving to ourselves what we've won, like, enjoying our earnings, enjoying our winnings, so to speak. Like if there's no element of that, if there's no sense of appreciating ourselves or getting all of our needs met, including our needs of recovery and rejuvenation and inspiration and recreation, if that's not built in there, then a deep animal element of ourselves, a deep primal element of ourselves realizes that it's being left out of the vision that we're going in. Does that make sense? And if it doesn't see a place for itself in the future, in the vision that we're going in, then it starts rebelling, and it rebels in any way it wants to. It'll rebel by, in a moment of weakness, it's going to get you to buy a bag of chocolate and just eat it. Or it'll rebel by speaking really nastily to you in your own mind, whatever it has to do. It'll allow your motivation to wane, or it'll get you sick, or it'll just sabotage in whatever way. So the key here is leadership. We want to win leadership with our mind. And even though it's probably the most true that you and your mind are one entity, it really is useful for the purpose of our conversation to view it as you as consciousness, or you as, say, a soul self, you as your soul, and your mind-body complex as sort of the animal that you are, but also are not. Like you are this mind-body animal thing. You are it, but it's also a meat puppet that you're sort of operating as and operating with. And so therefore we treat it in a way as its own entity, and then we strive to have perfect communication with it and to have good leadership over it. And the final thing to say about this is that we really do want to be in a leadership position. And if we're not in a leadership position over the mind-body animal complex, then it itself will be a leader. And we will mistakenly think that its desires and cravings are to be served, like whatever it wants, we will just give it because it is wanted. And we will inadvertently give our authority over to the animal that we're supposed to be the authority over. And then when we're in a place like that, then it creates this runaway dopamine effect where we just give ourselves whatever we want, whenever we want it. And we consider that to be freedom. This is a big thing that I wean a lot of my one-on-one clients off, especially in the beginning, where when I meet them, they're deep in this state of just giving themselves whatever they want whenever they need it, but also treating that as if that were a huge freedom that they won for themselves, is the ability to eat Oreo cookies, a bag at a time on a nightly basis. Like that's the freedom that I've won for myself because I have a job and so forth. And so we're learning as we go through this that the animal, the mind, body, the emotional primal element of us, it is a cherished member. It is a cherished element of us, and it belongs in the overall vision that we have going ahead. But it is not to be the captain. It is not to be the leader. It is not the master. It's not supposed to have mastery over us. In its rightful place, we are the master, and we have mastery and dominion over this element of ourselves. And again, it's not a forceful thing. It is a harmonized, cooperative thing. It is leadership. So, in order to break into this discussion about how to have leadership over the mind, hopefully by now you're sold on the importance of it. We begin with a question. What are you obsessed with? What are you obsessed with? A different word that we could use is fixated or transfixed. So what are you fixated on? What are you transfixed by? In other words, what do you find you're thinking about all the time? You're just always thinking about it, and it seems to be an involuntary form of thinking. Like you just keep thinking about it and you don't even want to, you're not even trying to, but it just keeps happening over and over again. How is this obsession serving you? Do you feel like it's a good thing to be obsessed with this thing? And you may have a mixed answer around this. It's not a clear-cut answer, because the reason why we obsess over something is because we're really caught on it. And what happens is when we're obsessed with something is that we see that thing as the thing. So we see it either as, so we see it as either the thing that will bring us to the promised land, so to speak. It'll bring us to where we want to go, or it could deliver some sort of terrible thing that must be avoided at all costs. And we see it as either the thing that will provide us wellness, or it'll prevent us. It may possibly prevent us from receiving wellness. And so it's made into the most important thing, and it becomes the object of our attention, the object of our fixation. And one major thing that I wish to communicate is that if you're finding that the obsession is not serving to your advantage, if you find the obsession is not serving your highest interest, then would you be willing to allow this obsession to be brought to a close? How would we do this? If you're willing to drop your obsession with something, then this is accomplished by simply bringing your attention to the obsession itself. And we do this by saying, I am obsessed. Thus is the nature of my obsession. Another word for the term obsession is hypnosis. To be profoundly focused on something, to be in like one of these narrow lens kind of perspectives, like tunnel vision. There we go. To be in tunnel vision around something, to be hypnotized by it. So you would say, again, thus is the nature of my obsession. Thus is the nature of my hypnosis. So please take a minute to say that out loud. Thus is the nature of my obsession. Thus is the nature of my hypnosis. And what you may notice right away is a little bit of relief, a little bit of space around your mind, because you took the thing that was masquerading as your mind, that which you actually thought was your own mind, and it is becoming an object inside of your mind for you to look at. And once that thing goes from being subjective to being an object, then it is disconnected from the power that you were giving it up until now. And it no longer feels so intimidating. It's just an object for you to see. What have you not yet forgiven? So this is another form of hypnosis, another form of fixation. What is it that happened in the past that you've not forgiven? And to allow forgiveness in, very importantly, isn't to stop caring about it, or to say that whatever happened is good or cool or like we're okay with it. And it's not to dishonor ourselves in what we've gone through, but it's just simply to look at an element of reality that we are holding an active stance against through the form of this hypnosis. And we look at this and we don't necessarily say, I forgive you or whatever. We just notice, okay, I am fixated on this thing. I am obsessed with this thing. I'm holding this thing as an active element in my mind. We could ask you right now, is this serving to your advantage to hold it like this? The answer is yes, keep on going. And if you feel like the answer is no, this isn't serving your highest and best benefit, then would you be willing to release the energetic charge you have around it? Would you be willing to release the holding that you have over it and the hold that it has over you? If so, say yes. And then through that willingness, a release is achieved. What do you feel like you need? What do you need? What must you have? Where one day you may have it, and once you have it, all will be well. But until that day, all is not well. This is another form of hypnosis. Would you be willing to allow this hypnosis to fade away? Would you be willing to release the grip you have on it and the grip it has on you? If so, say yes. And notice the relief that comes in when you just say yes and allow it to happen. Now, at this point, you may be thinking like, okay, well, easier said than done, Branton. I totally get that. It's not, I want to make an important distinction here that when we say yes to this sort of thing, because I'm taking you through a doorway of sorts, where once we walk through this doorway, it's not like everything is suddenly amazing forever. And it can happen that way, but it won't necessarily happen that way. But in these important moments where you make a decision to release the grip that you have on something, what it means is that a new momentum is being created. An old momentum is being dropped and released, and a new one is being generated. It means a new chapter is beginning that is now unfolding, that you are now proceeding into. So there still is a time element, but now the new chapter can begin as a result of this decision that you made. And this is the way. Check in with yourself. Check in with yourself honestly. And once you've done that honestly to your own satisfaction, then go. Then do, then speak, then write. And what if this is all that you need? What if you could just release your reference points? Release what you're gripping on. What ideas and points of view do you hang on to that you grip? What outcomes do you grip on? What ideas about yourself do you grip on? Do they give you form and give you meaning? Now, as you do this, right, as we move into this section of the conversation, please exercise caution, because I'm asking you now how you make meaning out of nothing. And you need to be ready to exist in a place of meaninglessness. If you're not ready, then you run the risk of nihilism or the risk of being manipulated, somebody else taking over your meaning mechanism. So you have to do this with your eyes open, and you have to do this when you're ready. If you feel like you're not ready, then don't watch this, don't continue with this video. Come back later when you are ready. But as it appears to me, all of us become ready at a certain point along our journey where we are ready to release the grip. We're ready to release our reference points, like all the different ways that we make sense of anything. And we give ourselves permission to free fall or free float in a place of meaninglessness, trusting that we know how to flow with it. We know how to flow with our own energies, our own mind, but we also know how to flow with the universe, with the external world. When it comes time to make a video, as it is for me now, it's time to make a video. I don't know this because I've figured something out. I haven't figured this out because I know something. I certainly don't know this because I've memorized or learned some sort of productivity schematic on how to get more done per day. You should check out my video on the end game of productivity, the absolute limit of productivity, where I talk about this, where you actually can solve the problem of productivity. Suffice to say, there's just a free fall, just a movement with everything. No need to grip anything, no need to push anything away. This was what Matt Kahn said to me in a parking lot after the retreat, at his intuition retreat in North Carolina. He was so sweet. We had finished. We were all packing our stuff, getting stuff in our cars, getting ready to go, saying our goodbyes, hugs, all that stuff. And Matt Kahn was just around. He was just walking around. He was following his own intuition. And he was walking by. He saw me. We had spoken a little earlier. He waved goodbye. It was lovely. And then he did this sort of U-turn. He came around. He came talk to me. And he said, did that thing that I said earlier make sense about meditation we'd be talking about? And he said, gripping, pulling something in, pushing something away, that's all samsara. You can view life as a museum, just moving through the museum. Don't touch it, just watch, just enjoy. Just move through it. Enjoy the museum, he said as he walked away. One more example is, I'm at a point in my life where I've been gripping with a lot of paradox, where, I talked a little bit earlier about power versus force, and I'm still, still struggling with it, because sometimes it feels like there's a time to surrender and then there's a time to really force. And what I notice, and I would love for you to really hear this in particular right now, is that sometimes my mind is set up such that it prevents me from operating spontaneously with the Tao. I'm going to repeat that. Sometimes my mind is set up so that it prevents or inhibits me from operating spontaneously with the Tao. So if that happens, which one's incorrect? Is it the Tao or is it my mind? Probably my mind. So therefore, despite any distinctions that we make between power and force, sometimes there's a time for force. There's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for force, for movement, for really going for it. And when that time comes, if you have a belief system that prevents it, then it is you that loses out. That's why it's so important, as much as you can, to release your reference points, to release your rules, in other words, your rules about life. What have you made in your mind? What elements and what behavior is just not okay, never, ever, ever. And this thing always, as much as possible. See, all of that is you being chunky and clunky and you can't, it's like trying to get on a plane, but with too much carry-on. It's no, you can't take it with you. And you don't need it. Just get a shirt when you arrive at your destination. So thus is the nature of my hypnosis, and thus is the nature of leadership over the mind. Teaching the mind that all is well, teaching the mind that it's safe. What does your mind need? What does your animal need? What do your emotions need? Getting those needs met. And allowing yourself to rest assured that the direction that you're going in will also include your needs, all of your needs on all of your levels being seen to as you go forward. Recognizing when your mind is at odds with what your intuitive calling is asking for, and giving primacy to your intuitive calling. Now, there's an irony here, because I'm saying this and then you might say, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with even this video, the stuff that's contained here? Like, is this stuff true or not? And the truth is that if you took everything I said in this video and then made a thought structure, a belief structure, a value structure out of it, then the value of what I'm saying would be lost very quickly, very quickly. But if you allow what's being transmitted here in this talk to unlock you and to point to areas where you're chunky, so to speak, areas where you're locked up, and to allow that to be softened, and to allow that which is no longer serving you to be released, then this is not content to be collected or accumulated, but it's a key to unlock so that you can move more smoothly and fluidly upward along the path of your greatest expansion. If you enjoyed this, then you are going to enjoy the Sovereign Creators Collective. It is a membership group that is opening up near the end of this month, early May. It is a collective of awakened beings, light workers, creators, artists, entrepreneurs, and healers. People who are consciously grappling with their awakening experience. You people are at the leading edge of the awakening of human consciousness, which is indeed happening. And your role is so important. I've been learning and reading and just kind of drinking in this idea of the awakening of human consciousness, because I found somewhere along the way, it's the one thing that I want to be involved in. It's the one thing that I care about the most. I want to do it myself, and I want to support everybody else that's doing it. So the Sovereign Creators Collective is a group of us coming together. I'm giving twice a month live calls where I'll be teaching stuff, sharing stuff, coaching, live coaching, one-on-one work, Q&A. You'll have access to my one course, the Empowerment Mastermind, and all courses that I create in the upcoming days and weeks and months. There's a live forum with some prompts, and you can also ask questions and connect with other people such as yourself. It's going to be a hoot. It's going to be the best. If you're into it, hit the link below and I'll tell you all about it there. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. I'll talk to you soon.